You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Take a pizza, and then you wrap a taco inside of it.
Hello, Internet. This is the latest edition of the ToneMob.com podcast. As you know, or maybe you don't, maybe it's your first time. So, if you don't know, I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Jason Banning of Banning Guitars.
Hey, everybody.
What's kicking, man?
Well, bunch of dust, really. Sawdust, all different types of lumber. Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do anything of note today?
Well, I'm starting to work on a new model for next year, which is kind of exciting for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
Can
kind
you
of a
talk
spin-off.
about that a little bit?
Yeah,
or
totally,
not yet?
man.
Okay, go ahead.
It's the first of the new models that I'm going to introduce in 2016, and it's my Heartbreaker model, which has been pretty popular. And what I'm doing is I'm going to make a player version of it, which is pretty much stripped down, all party, ready to go, rock and roll version of it that I could sell for a lot cheaper, to help out a lot of these guys that have been wanting my guitars but just can't afford them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of excited about that.
That's really cool. So is it going to be kind of like a satin finish type of thing? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, satin finish, no binding. Like none of the glam and the glitz. It's just down to business playing, so.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. I love the Heartbreaker in its current form. But I also really like the stripped down stuff. So like I'm a big Les Paul Jr. guy and things
Sweet.
like that. So that's gonna be
I love
rad.
Les Paul. Cool, thanks, man. Yeah.
So yeah. Some people may not be familiar. Maybe let's tell them. How about you tell them about what the Heartbreaker kind of is inspired by, and
okay,
and they can take a look at them.
Yeah. Well, the first Heartbreaker I built just for myself, kind of as an experiment. I don't know. I've always loved mixing different ideas from different guitars together. Just making a hybrid guitar or whatever you want to call it. Taking stuff from classic designs and borrowing from them and making them into a single design. So the first one that I actually built for myself. And so what it was, the idea behind it was take a Rickenbacker 360, which I loved, and mix it with my, another one of my all-time favorites, which is the Telecaster. And so part of the experiment was I was really curious to see how close to a Rickenbacker I can make the construction, as far as lumber, routing, internal chambering, all that stuff goes. And then I was curious to see, what the sound was going to be, because I wanted to see like how much of the sound was actually coming from the body shape, that kind of thing. That's what makes me excited. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of a nerd that way, like how does this work? So anyway, so the first one I made, and everybody, like, I put pictures of it on Instagram, and it just like, I wasn't even planning on making more, but then everybody just really loved it. So I ended up making more, and I had to call it a Heartbreaker. Originally, I called it something else, but I got in trouble with one of the big brands coming after me, so I had to change the name.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So that's what it is. 360 meets tele shape construction, So
it's phenomenal. It's the first guitar that I seen from you, and I just like freaked out. Like
Sweet.
I came across it and was like, oh man, that's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I immediately reposted it, and then everyone else freaked out on my page. I was like, I know, I know. Look at it. It's so
Thanks.
awesome. I think it was if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was a blue one that was kind of doing a like blue to black burst type of thing.
Yeah, I remember that one. Cool, man. Yeah, I've made quite a few different ones, and all the different classic colors to funky colors. So for the new ones, for the player series that I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to only offer it in 3 different colors. It's going to be white, black, or a sunburst.
Cool.
And they're going to be satin finishes, and they're going to rock. So I'm excited about them.
The satin white, that's going to look nice.
Yeah, it's going to be a satin Olympic white, so I think it should look pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's going to be killer. That's awesome. So let's dig into what I dig into, and what is Mr. Jason Banning's musical backstory? Where did you start, playing, and then how did it lead into what you're doing today?
Well, I started playing when I was in high school. I started out actually as a bass player. Whenever I was I think a sophomore, I started playing bass, and when we started playing, obviously a punk rock band, this was like mid 90s. And so I found punk rock, and I was like, oh yes, this is awesome. Punk rock is the best. And I still like it to this day, but so I started playing bass in a band called the Green Beans, and we were total like skater boy punk rock stuff,
Right.
And so from there, I found in the mid to late 90s, I started finding what back then was called emo, but it wasn't what it turned into. It was kind of more like punk rock with like, I don't know, really melodic sounding chords and stuff,
Right.
And so then I started playing guitar when I moved to Lodi, where I live now, because I lived in Manteca. And I wanted to start a band, and I didn't know anybody. So I was like, I'm going to play guitar. And I taught my friend to play bass. And so I started playing guitar when I was about 18. And that's kind of where all my guitar building came from, just out of selfishness, because I couldn't afford the guitars I wanted to buy. So I'm like, I'm just going to build one for myself. So I've always been that kind of person, like tinkerer kind of guy, and see how things work kind of thing. So I started building guitars for myself like whenever I was in my early 20s, and I played them, and all my friends started wanting them. So lately I didn't play any music really in any bands for about probably 10 years, but now just recently in the last, I don't know, 5 months or so, I've been playing a lot at my church and stuff, and I've been really enjoying that. So it's been pretty awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
What did you start building? Did you start with parts casters, or did you start doing
pretty much.
Okay.
That's what the very first guitar I built, I can say built really loosely. It was like one of those kits, it was like a Stratocaster kit.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it for my birthday from my in-laws. And they said, here, and I was like, oh, this is nice, but I was like, this thing's not going to sound good, That's what I was thinking in the back of my mind,
Right.
So I put it together, and I really enjoyed putting it together. I mean, I had to do a lot of the cutting and fitting and all that stuff myself, and then obviously all the finishing and stuff. And I just really enjoyed the process. But what really got me intrigued is when it was finished, how it sounded a lot better than a lot of my other guitars, my Fender guitars and stuff. I'm just like, what the heck? Because this was like a cheapy kit. It was only like a couple $100,
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, why does this thing sound better than these professional guitars, So I just was intrigued by it. And so from there, I started building my own bodies, just parts caster stuff, and then using like all parts necks and stuff like that. And then I just kept learning and reading books and trying more stuff, and pretty soon I was just building the whole thing, So it keeps me out of trouble.
Somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat.
Right. So did you learn from anybody? Did you like kind of go to any shops and kind of get some some help from more experienced builders, or is it you pretty much all self-taught?
I was pretty much all self-taught. I started building guitars in 2004, I think it was. And so I was pretty much self-taught. I watched tons of videos, read tons of books, I read the Benedetto book on archtop building, and that was like one of the, I don't know, second guitars I've ever built from scratch. I was like, decided like I'm gonna build the most hard type of guitar to build first.
Right, exactly.
So if I could build this, I could build anything, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and then also my background in machine shop, because I was a foreman in a machine shop for 15 years before I started doing guitar building full time. So a lot of my hands-on experience, like with precision machining, with those different types of tools and instruments and stuff, that really lent well to my woodworking skills too. So I didn't really have any help until maybe about a year ago. I met Casey from Veritas,
Right.
and
Right.
he just started calling me out of the blue, and he's just an awesome guy. And so we became friends on the phone, and then it's almost been a year exactly. He called me up and he's like, "Hey man, you need to buy my CNC." And I'm like, "What?" And so it turned out he was selling his CNC because he wanted to buy a bigger one and a newer one.
Mm-hmm.
And up until that point, I was doing everything old school, hands built by hand, using pin routers, hand routers, everything by hand.
Right.
And he's like, "Dude, if you use a CNC, it'll blow your mind. It's going to change your world." And like he's just telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, "Damn, that sounds pretty awesome," So,
right.
anyways, long story short, I went to a shop and bought the CNC from him, and he was like the first guy that really showed me anything, And like from just being at his shop for like one day, hanging out with him, seeing like his process and stuff, that like totally changed my life. Like, because when you're doing things all by yourself, you can only get as good as you can without, being around people that have experience. And he was trained by somebody else, and a lot of this stuff you can't really learn unless somebody tells you. It's like, what the heck, I would have never thought of that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's just different processes that actually make your life a heck of a lot easier for building things. So he showed me a lot of stuff like that, and it really helped me out with my process. And so I think he's pretty much the only person that's ever showed me anything.
Right. Yeah, he's actually the reason that you and I are talking today. I can't remember.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did discuss that. Yeah, I was at his shop and now I kind of feel bad because he was totally supposed to come on the show too, and he hasn't. He was like, "Yeah, I'll do it," and then I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll call you," and then I forgot to tell just now that I'm supposed to call him. So that's I'm a wonderful person.
Yeah. He's
call
busy.
Casey. So. Call Casey tomorrow. Yes, but yeah, I was at his shop and I was like, "Yeah, man, we totally." I called him just kind of out of the blue because Chris Benson recommended that I talk to him. I think they're doing NAMM together this year.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, okay, Chris likes him. I probably like him too. And, and just called him up out of the blue, and he's like, "Hey, you know what? We're expanding the shop. Why don't you just come by?" I'm like, "Oh, cool. I work pretty close to you." So I drove over there, and it was getting ready to wrap up for the day, but we were just talking in the parking lot, and he's like, "You know who else you need to call? You need to call Jason." I'm like,
yeah, he's awesome, dude. He's such an awesome guy, man. He really is.
Yeah,
he's got a great heart.
Yeah, he's super cool, and his guitars look beautiful. And that was actually
it
was kind of funny. You tell me if you're in this boat too. I bet you are. Because everyone I've talked to that builds guitars is. I went there, I was like, "Oh, I can't wait to play one of his guitars. Like, they look amazing. I've never seen one in person. Like, this is going to be sweet." And, I don't even have to plug it in, just like strum on it a little bit, and take a look. I'm like, "Yeah, man, so where's your guitars at?" And he's like,
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Yeah, he's like the only guy that I know that builds guitars that doesn't actually own a guitar. I'm just like, what, dude? You don't own a guitar? That's kind of weird, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm like the opposite. Like I have like closets full of guitars. I'm like, I don't even know where to put all my guitars, you know? But
But
I
do you
actually
have your
sold.
own guitars?
I there's certain ones that I've kept over the years, so I actually
Okay.
do, you know. Like
Okay.
I've kept certain ones where I'm like, this piece of wood is awesome and I'm keeping it, you know, kind of thing. So I do actually own a few of my own guitars, which might be a little weird, but I actually like to play my own guitar, so and it's not to show off, but it's just something that I'm like, man, I mean, trust me, I love playing other guitars too because there's a flip side, you know, when you're building guitars all the time for a living, you really appreciate not having to build one, you know? So I totally appreciate all the other luthiers, man. Like I mean, I follow all these guys and we're all friends and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, he's the only guy that Casey's the only guy that like, I don't have a guitar, but that, I mean, speaks about his guitars, you know, because every time he builds a guitar, he sells it. And there's been quite a few times where I've had guitars and people wanted to sell, you know, buy them, but I'm just like, no, I'm keeping this one. This one's mine, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's
So,
interesting because, well, all right, well, I was going to mention too because I was talking to Paul Roney and he was the same way as Casey was. He had guitars, but he didn't have any of his own.
yeah.
And he's like,
I
I think
think
that's
the
kind of a
reason
thing. Oh,
it is
go.
because most luthiers, we're like totally poor. And so we're like, okay, I could either keep this guitar or I could build another one, kind of thing, you know.
Right.
So it's like I'm gonna sell it because I need to pay my bills. So I've been fortunate enough to where I haven't had to do that sometimes, and other times, you know, I'll hold on to it for a while, and then I'm like, I guess I'll sell this one now, you know, kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I do have a few of my own though.
Well, which ones do you have of your own?
I have a Betty May guitar that one of my friends calls Goldie because it's kind of a golden yellow colors. And I made that guitar out of like a one-piece sugar pine body that was actually grown locally. It's kind of a crazy story. This dude here, his name was the Woodsman, is what he called himself. This
Okay.
crazy, crazy old man, just out in the middle of nowhere, with a huge warehouse full of wood. And he was just like a wood hoarder, you know, it was his baby. Like he didn't want to sell the wood, and so I go to buy this wood from him, and he's like, "Well, you know, like he gives me some outrageous price." I'm like, "Dude, that's like way overpriced, you know."
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, long story short, I don't buy any wood from him because it's like way too much money. So, like 6 months later, the dude like closes his shop because he's like so old, he's just got bad health, and he calls me up and he's like, I'm going to sell my wood. And I'm like, well, when you say sell, how much is it going to be? And like, he doesn't answer me. So I'm like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going. So then I find out that he like donated all the wood to this place here called Valley Lumber. So I went and bought a huge pallet full of wood for like $200. I mean,
Nice.
and I made probably like over 100 guitars with it, you know?
Oh, sweet.
So anyways, this was like one of the last pieces left of that wood, and I saved it for myself because it's like a one piece old growth sugar pine. I mean, this stuff's been drying since like the 1980s. This dude cut it down himself, and
Really?
yeah, it just like everybody that plays it, just like, dude, this is like the best sounding guitar that I've ever heard. Like out of all the guitars that I made with it. So I ended up saving this one piece, and I made this Betty May guitar for myself out of it. And so I own that guitar. I own the very first Heartbreaker that I made still, and I own a couple arch tops that I built. So besides that, I don't own any other ones.
Cool. Well, that's actually a
Yeah.
good way to dive into this question, which is you say you're playing at church a lot, so what's your current rig look like for that situation?
Well, I play with like two different teams, and so for one team, I play my Milkman Creamer amp, and I usually play either my Heartbreaker or my Betty May for that team. And then I have like a small effects board with, I don't know, like the essentials. I have some Strymon stuff on there. I have Hungry Robot stuff, Carolina stuff, Bondi effects, just like.
Don't be afraid to get nerdy on it. We can be
Yeah,
more
I know.
specific
It's like
than stuff.
we could get very nerdy.
Let's do it. Do it.
Yeah.
From
So,
start to finish, man.
yeah, you want the
This is-
whole signal chain?
This is a gear podcast.
Okay, I guess I better look at it now so I
Okay.
don't make any mistakes. Like, wait a second.
Yeah, because I'm totally going to call you on them if you do make mistakes.
Like, I seen a picture and you're totally off, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
You totally don't have your drive stacked like that. Thanks for lying to me.
Alright, so I got my Polytune, starting it out, going into my Caroline Haymaker, which I love. That freaking
Nice.
pedal is just amazing. And then I have a pretty sweet Bondi Effects Del Mar, which is a prototype that Jono built for me before they even came out. So mine's actually a little bit hotter, I guess, than the normal one.
Cool.
And I love that pedal, man. It's like one of my most used pedals. And then I have a Mercy Seat Effects dual pedal. It has like a always on. I think he calls it like a. I can't remember. It has a key on it, and then the other side is the Tree of Life.
Oh,
which
the
is
Tree
kind
of Life is so sick.
Yeah, dude, I love that pedal, man.
I
So
recently got to try that one. Schnobeltone sent it to me just because I watched this Periscope and I was like, that Tree of Life sounds great. And he's like, you want to try it? I'm like, no, I hate trying pedals. Don't send it to me. And
Yeah, man, I have to buy it.
yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling at this point. Which maybe that was the whole scheme. Maybe it was a big
Yeah.
scheme altogether. Yeah,
Usually is.
I gotta send that back to him.
You're not getting it back.
It's mine. You can't have it.
Yeah, no, Austin's really cool, dude, from Mercy Seat Effects. Like, I have a couple of his other pedals, man. He's just a really cool guy, dude. And
Nice.
all of his pedals that I played just sound awesome. And then, let's see, I have a pedal that I actually built from a kit on my pedal board right now. It's I call it a Swell Time, and I forget, it's based off like an old Boss pedal that what it does is it almost sounds like a reverse gate on your, like a reverse delay kind of thing, like where
Okay.
like you hit your note and then you could control the attack on it, like how fast it'll come in and how fast it'll fade out. So
Oh, is it the Boss slow gear? Is that right?
that's it, dude. That's the
Okay.
one. So this is pretty much a clone of that.
Cool.
And then I have that going into my reverbs. I have a El Capistan, a Dig, and a Blue Sky by Strymon.
Very cool. So
Yeah.
I'm curious now because the slow gear has been. I mean, if you can find an original, they're ridiculous expensive. But
I know.
I really want to try one because they sound super interesting. Like,
Oh,
how
dude.
do you use that pedal? I mean, I know it's a
Well,
clone,
I use it
but-
for like with the church setting. It's really good for like if you put on like a nice reverb behind it, and then if you want to like, I sometimes use some kind of drive in front of it, and so it'll almost sound like lap steel-ish. Like you could it just really fades. It almost sounds like you're riding your volume knob, like on off kind of thing, controlling
Mhm.
that. But you could control it by your pedal, so it's just like for the lazy man kind of thing, So this way, I don't really need like a volume pedal, This does it for me for the
Right.
swells and stuff. So
Gotcha. Well, that's really cool. I need to. Is that what? I'm just gonna stammer and stutter here for a second. Is that one of those? I think BYOC makes that kit. Is that correct?
yep, yeah,
Okay.
that's the one I got.
The gears are turning in my brain. I'm trying to connect the dots, and my brain
Yeah.
doesn't work that well, so it hurts sometimes.
No, that's pretty good. I think you knew that, so pretty good.
I'm kind of a nerd. Nerd.
Pedals are good.
Yeah, well, it depends on who you ask. My wife would disagree.
Yeah,
She-
most
she-
women would.
She doesn't really. She thinks they're dumb.
Of course. Why do you need another pedal?
It's she's like, what? Okay, what does that one do? I'm like, that's a fuzz. She's like, what's that one do? I'm like,
It's
that's a
fuzz.
fuzz.
Yeah. How many
That-
fuzz did you need? Oh, you don't understand fuzz. We
You'll
need at
never.
least 100.
Well, I talked about this on the last episode I recorded. The optimum number is always one more. That's how it works.
Exactly. Dude, I'm such a huge fuzz head, man. I mean, I got like at least probably like 10 fuzz pedals.
You're
So,
you're talking to the right guy right
yeah.
now. Do you have one that you kind of like, or a certain style of fuzz that you kind of gravitate towards? Like, you more of like a tone bender guy, or I mean, there's a
I
whole
think
spectrum there.
I used to be kind of more of a tone bender guy, but now like I kind of view it differently. I almost view it like a tool, like which one do I need for this song kind of thing, for
Mm-hmm.
the tone that I'm looking for. So it kind of just depends on that sort of thing.
You don't
Um,
have a favorite per
well,
se.
if I had to just pick one, like the one that like totally blew my mind like a few years ago was the ZVEX Fuzz Factory, dude.
Yes.
Like when that came out, I was just like, what the crap is this, Like it freaked me out, dude. I'm just like, this is like the best pedal ever.
I totally get it. I actually was super late to the game on that thing. I just got one with this year. Like I've
Oh,
known about it.
dude.
I've known about it
Yeah.
forever. And I seen one like, okay, this is dumb that I don't have this pedal by now. And so I snatched it up, especially because it was used and super cheap for a
Nice.
ZVEX pedal. And I was like, where have you been all my life? What have I
Yeah,
been doing?
that pedal is just amazing. I mean, because I love the nastiness that it could get,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you could just get so many different fuzz tones out of that one pedal. It's just pretty sweet.
It's great. And I think it kind of gets. I mean, don't get me wrong. It can get way out of control and way over the top. But
Yeah.
I think that I've heard a lot of people be like, "Oh, I couldn't control it." I'm like,
But I like
what?
that aspect of it,
I'm
man.
like,
To
I can
be
control it.
truthful. Yeah, I like the not. I mean, you could control the chaos, like because I'm totally into like all those crazy sound and stuff, like Jack White, like.
Yep.
I mean, like anywhere, I like a lot of different type of music, so I like that aspect of the pedal,
I do too. I really dig that thing. I like how it gets all oscillaty and because
I
that's
like
a word.
that too. Yeah, I
It's
mean, like I did so many recordings with that thing where we're just like pretty much like building a song around the tone we were getting out of the pedal. We're like, dude, this is awesome. Let's write a song with it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
it's definitely one of those boxes that is pretty much its own instrument. Like
yeah,
in a
totally.
way, in a manner of speaking. It's not because just by itself it doesn't do anything. Well, that's not true either. It kind of does do things by itself sometimes.
It does, man. Like radio stations and stuff. You're like, wait a second, there's somebody from Mexico talking to me right now. That's what I get at my house, like a Mexican, some kind of station through it.
You need to
It's
integrate that into a song.
Yeah, it's like you could be playing, and then if you like do like a palm mute, and like it's like staggering out, like a weird sound, and all of a sudden you hear la 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 bomba. It's just like what? It's pretty awesome.
And everyone's going, "How'd you do that? What? How'd you do that?"
I can't tell you.
This is a
It's never gonna be
secret.
the same song again. So
Yeah, you only get that magic one time. So
yeah,
enjoy it, relish it.
exactly.
Nice. Good times. So I also like to ask people this question, and sometimes it all kind of depends. A lot of people are pretty much satisfied, and I'm almost gonna assume that you might be one of these people too. But I like asking people about what their dream rig would be.
Well, I've always wanted a Gretsch White Falcon, and one of these days I'm actually gonna get one. But like I'm like actually really content with the gear that I have. I mean, I have like I don't even know, like 5 or 6 amps, a buttload of guitars, and so I'm like totally content with what I have at this moment. But if I was gonna say dream guitar or dream rig, the White Falcon goes on that list for sure for a guitar.
They're so
Um,
gorgeous.
I don't know why. I mean, some people really like you either love them or you hate them, because of all the glitz and glam on them. So
I
I'm
don't
one of the guys that
really.
love them.
I have not personally spoke with anyone that hates him. So this is
I've
strange to
heard
me.
quite a few guys that like, man, that thing's so ugly. So
I can't be associated with those people.
I know, me either. It's like
Oh.
blasphemy. Like, what? How dare you?
Yeah. Next, you're gonna tell me you don't like a Cadillac Green Country Club either,
Exactly.
because
There's certain
that's
things that just look great, and that's one of them.
yes.
But yeah, I mean, I have my Milkman amp. I have a pretty sweet Tyler amp. It's a JT46. I have a PRS anniversary amp that just sounds crazy good. And then I have a Vox AC30 top boost that was made in the 90s with back when it was still made in England. That sounds crazy good.
Right.
And then I also have a Tweed Double Deluxe amp that's crazy. And yet I still want a Benson amp after all these amps. So I'm like, it's the same
That
thing. How many amps do you need? Well, just one more.
just one
So,
more. Yep,
yeah,
most definitely.
yeah.
Well, I talk about the Benson stuff way too much on here, so I'll try to refrain. But yeah, you do need one. You need one.
Yeah, I actually got to play through one at Cower's open house like this last summer because he
Oh,
was
cool.
there and Benson was there and he had one of his amps, the Monarch there, and he had what is it called, the Tall Bird? Is that the reverb thing?
But yeah, it's a reverb unit. Yeah.
Yeah, so he had that there and I heard it and I was like, dude, this sounds awesome. I mean, I really can't justify another amp because I love my Milkman, I love my Tyler, I love all my amps, but you know how it is. You see an amp and you're like, oh, I must have it.
Sometimes you don't need to justify it.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just need it.
Yep. Indeed. That's most of the time.
Most definitely. So, do you have like a particular design of yours that is your favorite? I know it's like picking a child, but like, do you have one that you're just like, I'm super proud of this one, and this is maybe my flagship or something?
um, I don't know. There's a couple that I've done that I really like, but if I was just gonna pick one, like the one that's like really doing it for me right now is the Heartbreaker one. I have another model that I really love that I just designed this year, called the Alethea model, and it has a German carved top, and I really love that one because it looks kind of unique, and nobody else makes one like that. Um, so I really like that guitar, and it sounds awesome. Everybody that sees it, it's like, whoa, what is that? So I really like that one. It's a 24 and 3/4 scale guitar with a Bigsby on it, German carved top, semi hollow. Um, it's like a big guitar, close to the size of a 335. So
Oh
I like that
yeah,
design.
yeah, I seen that one too. I really liked it also.
Thanks.
I thought that just made me think of a weird thing though, that I have not actually played a guitar with a German carve. I've seen them, but I don't
Yeah,
think I've ever picked one up and played a guitar with the German carve in it. That's
they're pretty
weird.
cool, man. Like the first one I ever played, this dude from my last church, he's like this older guy. He's like 70, and he had this crazy old German carve, like really from Germany. Like, it was like a 50-year-old guitar. And he
Mm-hmm.
brought it in and he opened up the case and I'm like, whoa, what is that? And
Right.
so like I played it and I was like, man, this thing is amazing. And so that's kind of like what inspired me to build the Alethea model, was his guitar because I was like, man, German carve's awesome. And plus I got my CNC and so I'm like, now I could do things that I couldn't do before. So I'm doing a German carved guitar, kind of thing.
For
So
sure. That was
yeah,
that was gonna be my next question. I said I was gonna ask if the German carve was actually a German thing or if it was like French fries, one of those things we just made up to
yeah.
call it.
I don't know if the Germans made it up first, but I'm willing to bet they did because, I mean, it's kind of like an arch top, but it's still flat on top. And so you have this crazy carve into the wood. I mean, but then there's Rickenbacker that made them too. So, and Rickenbacker made them a really long time ago. So I don't know who was first.
Right. That's a company, now that you mention it, which is kind of funny. Growing up playing guitar, when I first started out, when I was like 12 or 14, I thought Rickenbackers were German, even though it says "Made in the USA" right on it. But for some reason, I had it. Yeah, they do. My dad thought that until I got mine. I got a 360 here recently, and he was like, he's a guitar player too. He's played guitar for years, but he's not really a gearhead like I am, which has saved him a lot of money over the years. I was like, yeah, check out this 360 I got. He's like, oh, this is sweet. Made in the USA. I thought these things were German. I was like, I did too. Till I was probably 20, I thought they were German. So,
I totally thought they were from over there too. I mean, especially since like the Beatles played them, back in the day. And so I was like, oh yeah, they're from somewhere over there. That's what I thought too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nope, USA, which is kind of rare these days. Bigger brand USA stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, I'm not super well versed on the Ricky history, but it's interesting that they've pretty much kept the same formula as far as how they build guitars.
Yeah.
Forever. Like, I don't know if they're doing it the same as when they started, but at least since the 70s, they've pretty much been doing the same thing, it seems.
Totally.
Somebody's probably going to correct me and say, no, now they use
something else.
Sort of something, or I don't know.
The only thing that I've noticed that is different is just their inlays. Like, they've changed them for a little while, I think in like the 90s maybe. Like, how companies like go in like, we're going to fix all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, dang, we totally messed it up. Let's go back to what we did before. Like how Fender did.
Gibson 2015.
Yeah, exactly. Let's put robot tuners on. That's the best.
That's the best. And we'll put 0 frets and all this. Let's screw up everything.
It's going to hover. It's going to be sweet.
We don't need to get into that. They've corrected their ways for 2016, so the debate is over on that.
Thank God.
It seriously stressed me out, like, because I've been a Gibson fan. You know how you grow up in a Ford house or a Chevy house. My dad's was a unique player because he was a country fan, like Waylon Jennings, top dog type of thing.
Uh-huh.
But he's a Gibson. He liked Gibson guitars.
Yeah, that's kind of rare.
Better. He just recently got a Telecaster. But it was just weird because I was like, yeah, Gibsons, obviously they're the best because my dad said so. And he can beat you up your dad, so you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. No. That's why I totally loved Gibson too. Like, I went through a huge Gibson phase, and I'm like, oh, Gibson, yes. And then I went back to Fender, oh, Fender, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm like in between, so.
Banning, yes.
Yes, Banning, yeah. So, yeah, I have one of my most favorite guitars that I own is a 1964 SG. It's like all original.
Ooh.
And dude, it's like the best neck I've ever played on, the best sounding humbuckers I've ever heard in my life. It just is like a dream guitar. And I bought it when I was 18 for I think it was like $800.
No way.
Yeah, it was like a family friend, so that's the only reason why I got such a good deal. But even he was like, well, I'm going to have to sell it for at least $800, and at the time, that was a lot for me. I was like, this was like 96, and I was like 18 years old, and I'm like, but my dad's like, you need to buy that guitar. It's like the best SG that you're ever going to be able to find in your whole life. And so I bought it, and I still own it, and I'm never getting rid of it,
That's awesome.
It's freaking amazing.
So your dad's a guitar player, too?
Yeah, my dad played his guitar. He started playing guitar when he was 12 years old. He's self-taught, and he's like one of those guitarists that's just like insanely good, like to the point where he's so good that he's almost not good anymore because it's like what he plays is not musically once you get to a certain level, it's like only other people that are on that level are the people that can enjoy it, kind of thing,
Yes.
And so he seriously though, he could like just do crazy stuff with his guitar, like make sounds out of it that you're like, what? How did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. So yeah, he plays for a living. And,
oh, cool.
Yeah, he's like in a million different bands, and he's in the Bay Area here in California.
Very cool. So then
Yeah.
growing up, then did he like what he was into? Did that have a big influence on you musically, or did you kind of just branch out and do your own thing?
I kind of branched out. Like, the thing that I'm mad about at myself is when I was in fourth grade, he wanted me to start playing guitar then, But since my dad wanted me to do it, I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I just want to skateboard. And so I didn't start playing until I was in high school. If I started playing when I was like in fourth grade or something, like I'd be insanely good. Maybe. I don't know, maybe not. But I'd probably be better than I am now. But yeah, he did influence me. Like, I don't know. I don't know if this is like a scientific proven idea, but I always think that, music it can be in your genes, And so it's like, I feel like music's definitely in my family and in my genes because my kids are already totally musically inclined, It's like you either, like some people are just good at it, like it's in their blood or something. I don't know how to explain it, but so
No,
I think
I know what you mean. For
yeah, I
sure.
think he's influenced me in that way for sure. But he was like totally, I mean, he was like a rocker in the 80s, the whole spandex time. And so he was like in all that music. And then the 90s, for the younger guys like us, we were like all into grunge rock and rebelling against stuff. So our musical tastes aren't the same. We do have a couple, musical tastes that are in common, like the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, like the classic stuff,
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff that he likes that I don't, and vice versa, kind of thing.
Would his be like more like, does he, because you said he's so skilled that it sounds bad sometimes, which I understand. I kind of relate that to a lot of like prog fusion type things.
Yeah.
Like it's like, wow, that's amazing, but I don't really want to listen to it for very long.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's like it's mind blowing what they could do. I'm just like, dude, what the heck? But yeah, like you have to be in the right state of mind or like in the right place to actually enjoy it, kind of thing. So I mean, I'd hate to say that it sounds bad, but it's not
I know
my
what you
thing,
mean. Yeah.
it's not my thing. So
Right. I totally get what you're saying.
yeah.
For sure.
But yeah,
Like I
he's
used
definitely
to.
influenced me on that kind of stuff, music, and my mom influenced me with my art. And so I used to want to be like a comic book artist before I actually started doing guitars. And so like I don't know, I've always been like a creative kind of person, like I have to create, like it just is my therapy kind of thing,
For
So
sure. For sure. I can relate to that. The only problem is that I'm not very skilled. So so I'm like,
practice.
I'm like, yeah, I made this thing. Look how cool this is. Oh, it's not that cool. Never
It's
mind.
really cool, Blake. That's nice.
It's nice. Now could you put it under the bed? Nobody needs
Yeah,
to see
go
that.
put it in the corner over there, and I'll throw it
Or-
away when you're not looking.
Yeah, I'll hang it up in my shop. Oh, wow. Crying out loud.
You okay?
I just about fell over a garbage can.
Wow, I heard
that's-
something like that's cool. That's a good way to do your interviews. I just fell in the dumpster.
I'm so professional. Look how professional I am. Oh man, everyone listening to this show is like, this guy is a moron right now.
That's awesome. I'm not good at making stuff, and I like to fall in garbage cans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that about sums up my life right there.
Yeah.
I'm not good at making stuff, and I fall in garbage cans while I'm trying to do interviews. That's what I do.
Well,
that was
good entertainment, right? So
I'm glad I didn't actually kick it like it's a metal garbage can, and then it would have made like, although that would have been pretty hilarious. And I would have totally, I would have totally left it in if I would have fell in. Actually, I'm gonna leave that. I'm leaving it in anyway, but
you should just leave it.
Yeah,
leave it. It's classic. It's classic.
That's what I
move.
get. That's what I get for walking around and getting lost in conversation while I'm recording instead of actually paying attention to what I'm doing.
Where are you going? Yeah. Who put that wall there?
Like, oh, that's only been there all day. So,
that's awesome.
All right. So yeah, besides me not being good at anything and running into garbage cans, I can totally relate on the creative thing. Like
Yeah.
I have to do something of that nature.
Yeah.
And it does. It makes me feel better. So
Totally, man. It's like therapy, really, It's like some kind of form of meditation, like playing music, making things, anything like that. It's just good for your soul.
most definitely. Like I guess I shouldn't say I'm terrible at making everything. Like I'm just maybe a late bloomer or something. Me and my band just did our first, what I would say our first like real like album that I'm
Awesome.
super proud of. And it's not the greatest record in the world, but I'm actually not embarrassed by it. So
Cool, dude.
That
That's a
says
huge
something.
step. What kind of music do you guys play?
It's a real like real 90s inspired
Oh, nice.
sound. There's a couple tracks on there that it's like, you guys listen to Weezer, don't you? Like, yep, sure do.
That's awesome. I love Weezer, man. Weezer's awesome.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun process, and then there's kind of a straight up like country-ish song on it too.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it spans a few different genres, but we all kind of have different influences, so that's bound to happen.
Yeah, that's like the best music, though. I mean, usually you mix up all these different influences and you get something nice and fresh and new and different taste in it. It's just awesome that way.
Yeah, it happened. And it all happened real organically. It's just a bunch of dudes that even if we weren't making music together, we'd be hanging out anyway. So
Yeah.
it's really cool that it all happened the way it happened, and hopefully we can do it again sometime. So
That's awesome. Yeah, dude, I'm longing to write some more music. I haven't written anything in a few years, and like it's like that for me, like I'm like really seasonal, like the wintertime is like what I'm all about, that's like where I get inspired, the cold and the rain. I don't know why, but that's just what influences me for writing. So I'm like in that zone, like I must write something now.
right.
So I'm hoping to start doing that again.
So do you have anything out where people can find it musically?
Well, I had like a side project kind of thing called the Red Light Survival. And I think it's on iTunes and Amazon. It used to be. I don't know if it still is. It's been like a couple years. So I'm pretty sure it's still on there.
Yeah, I don't think they generally yank them down, so.
Yeah, it wasn't that horrible, I hope. But they're like, this must leave now. So there's that. And it was like a project like I used to do like on my own, just like 4-track recordings and stuff. And then like the last time we recorded stuff with, same kind of thing, like a group of friends were like, we pretty much like had kind of like jam sessions and then like, okay, we're going to record this jam session and make this into a song kind of thing,
Right.
And so it was like really organic, like you said, like it has a lot of a raw feel to it. And most of it was like just recorded right there on the spot, a couple little overdubs here and there.
Cool.
So yeah, it was fun.
What genre or style would you say that fits into?
I would say like maybe like indie rock, I guess you could call it,
Okay.
But we're definitely influenced by the 90s like you, and same thing, we have a song that's a little country on there. So I'd say like a little country meets like Mazzy Star-ish, like on a
Oh,
couple
really?
songs.
Okay.
And
Nice.
and then we have other songs where you could definitely hear like our emo roots, I guess, where we're like, let's play this like little chord progression for 5 minutes and make it turn into something else, kind of thing.
So I'm curious. I want to know. I think I know about what year you're talking about when you talk about emo and then it changing into something totally different. Like
Yeah.
When you're talking about emo bands, who are you talking about? Just I'm trying
I'm
to
talking
gauge.
about like bands like Jawbreaker. I don't know if you heard of
Gotcha.
them.
Oh yeah.
Like the mid 90s, like before it got into like the kind of screamo stuff that everybody kind of called emo at that point, like late 90s, early 2000s, everything's like, we're emo rock. And it just turned into something way different.
Yeah.
So it was like before that, it still had, it was just like really melodic and had a lot of heart behind it, like Sunny Day Real Estate-ish kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really like that kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
cool. I mean, that's not what I was coming up on, but it's what I
Yeah,
went back and found.
yeah.
So yeah, I actually got to listen to Jawbreaker because I don't know if you're familiar with the band Lucero or not.
Yeah, I've heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like a uh, country rock Memphis soul type of sounding
Mm-hmm.
band. But they do a cover of Kiss the Bottle.
Oh,
And
nice.
I had no idea who. I knew it was a cover, but I
Yeah,
didn't, because I would hear them, at a concert and like, yeah, we got this. We're gonna do one of our favorite covers, and then they would play it,
that's
and I'm like,
cool.
well, who is it? That sounds like their song. It sounds like they did it.
Yeah,
The way it's real swinging and southern rock feeling when they play it. And
yeah.
then I found the Jawbreaker version. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go.
It's totally rocking, yeah. That song used to be like, because back in the day, like before you could download music, like you used to have to go to album stores and like try to find these like 7-inch records and like, because that was like just a B-side.
Right.
And so that was like one of the holy grails of like Jawbreaker. You're like, oh yes, I got Kiss the Bottle. Like we were like so stoked when we finally found it, because you'd always hear them play it live, but it was like insanely hard to find it, like actual pressing of it back then.
Right. It's funny because I think I'm starting to gauge. I'm always interested in like trying to figure out people's ages without actually talking to them.
Yeah,
Or not without actually talking to them, but without asking them. So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that you're just like 4 years or so older than I am. I think.
yeah. I'm 37.
Oh, I'm wrong.
How old are you? You're like 24. No, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Okay,
So, because
well, you're
I'm in
off a bit.
I was off a bit. It's just like the way you were talking about things, because I was in this, early 2000s. What you were talking about, like I was really into like the metalcore stuff
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
a couple screamo bands, a lot of post-hardcore stuff, and a lot of
Yep.
straight-ahead punk rock, and that's what I was into coming up then. And I'm in this really weird age group where everyone thinks that you're too young to remember certain things.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah, totally. You're like,
like
no,
like
I remember that.
like everyone's like everyone I work with is like, well, you wouldn't know about that. I'm like, you don't remember pre-internet. I'm like, yes, I do. Like, of
Yeah,
course I do
dude, I was
remember.
alive then. I was alive.
I was alive and I know all about these things. Like, it's just funny because everyone just assumes I don't know, maybe I'm not quite your typical millennial, but I am in some ways. But I don't know. It's a strange age to be, or maybe I just feel older than I actually am. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for my experience, most people your age, like, I think you are a little more well-rounded, I'll say, like, um, so I don't know why you're falling in garbage cans and stuff, because it doesn't sound like you should be.
Because I'm not. Well, I didn't say I was smart
Yeah.
or what. Well, I definitely don't have coordination. And I let's talk about this is the Let's Talk About Blake's Flaws podcast. Let's discuss
Yes.
all of his problems. He's emotionally unstable, kind of ugly,
He
and
likes to take a dive in the garbage occasionally.
he likes to go in garbage cans.
But he likes pizza.
really likes pizza.
So
I
that's a
really,
plus.
really like
That
pizza.
just brings it all back around, so it cancels out all the other things.
I don't know how we got this. I never can quite chart the progress of some of these
I
conversations.
know, huh? You're like, okay, cut, paste here, take this out.
I don't do much of that. I have only edited things when there was a problem
Yeah,
and I had to like splice it together a little bit. I keep it pretty raw just
nice.
because
That's how it should be.
I think people like to hear that. I hope.
Yeah, I think so. It keeps it real.
Yeah. All about keeping it real, dog.
Yeah, baby.
Son.
Uh.
We sound so not gangster right now. It's not even funny.
No.
Technology is wonderful. It really is. In fact, that's how you're listening to this podcast right now. All this wonderful technology and interneting. But we did have a little bit of a dropout, and I tried to make it nice and smooth and edit it, but in order to do so, you would not have got to hear Jason and I get gangsta. So, the last few minutes, I spliced it in. Here it is. I'm putting this in between. Sorry. Here it comes. Off in the depths of who knows what.
Weirdness.
So instead of asking a music related question, we can close out with this thought. Jason Banning,
Yes.
what is your favorite pizza topping?
Ah, dang, dude, that's like really deep right there.
I know, I didn't mean to get too personal.
Why'd you have to go there? I mean, I think I might have to hang up now.
Oh, dude, well, you don't have to. Feel free to not answer that question if it's too difficult to choose. I understand.
That actually is really difficult for me to choose. Just a topping.
Yeah, if you can only have one topping on your pizza.
I mean, does cheese count? Because cheese is
No,
topping, right?
That's pizza's not pizza without cheese.
Without the cheese, yeah. So, I mean, I guess it would have to just be pepperoni if there can only be one topping.
Like Highlander.
Yeah,
there can only be one.
So it would have to be pepperoni because it's classic.
Pepperoni.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, that's tough to argue with. I love pepperoni, and pizza it's barely pizza if there's no pepperoni on it.
I agree.
That's not really true, but you know what I mean. That's the classic. But I'm a big Italian sausage guy, so that would be
I love the sausage too, man.
It'd be a tough choice.
It is too tough.
I'm sorry I even asked now. Now I feel bad for making me think that bad.
After I know that you fall in the garbage can sometimes and you're asking me what my favorite topping is, I think we better just end this now. Now.
Like immediately? Like, what are you going to do if we don't end it now? What will happen?
I'm going to have to, send you some pepperoni in the mail or something because...
Then I'm not ending it because I like pepperoni.
You might find it, in your bed, Godfather style, Like just a big old uncut piece of pepperoni.
Or just like a uncooked pepperoni pizza, just kind of... Like it'd been delivered in a by the guy in Toy Story driving that Toyota.
There you go.
It's all kind of folded over and stuff. That sounds frightening.
Yeah, it probably would be pretty scary.
It would be.
Pepperoni feet.
If I wake up with pizza in my bed, I'll know who to blame.
Yeah, that's what I do. Besides making guitars.
That's an interesting lifestyle that you have. All right, man, but you are correct. We are right at that time. I always have a tough time shutting these things down, but
totally,
I think it's time, and so I guess we'll just have to say goodbye.
Yeah, well, thanks for the conversation, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, and we actually, we talked guitars.
Yeah, we did a little bit.
This counts as a guitar podcast, I think.
I think so. Pepperoni, pedals, guitars. We got it in there.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
So do you have anything, I sometimes neglect to do this and I always feel bad. Do you have anything you'd like to shamelessly plug before the end of the show? Are you going to NAMM? All that good stuff?
I think I'm not going to display at NAMM this year, but I will be there. So the only thing to plug I already did. So the new Heartbreaker model, look for it probably next month actually. So we'll have to get one up to you so you can check it out, man.
Oh, yes, please. I'm not going to argue with that at all. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So, how can people get in touch with you if they're so inclined? Various social medias and everything.
Yeah, check out the social medias, banningguitars.com. and then email sales@banningguitars.com. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Build guitars. Let me build you something. I'm a good guy.
There you go.
I like pizza.
Let him build you something, or he's going to put a pizza in your bed.
Yeah, you'll regret it. You do not want to wake up to that, trust me. That's how I get 99% of my sales, so.
Wow, that's a marketing technique.
It totally is. Do not buy guitars elsewhere. You will end up with pizza in the bed.
All right, Jason. I think that's
man.
as good of a note to wrap up on. So, as per normal, for Jason Banning, I'm Blake Weiland, and everybody, good luck and good tones.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, man. Thanks.
Yep. All right, folks, that's the show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. There's no reason to do this if you don't tune in. That's basically the end of it. So thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you're digging the show and you would like to support the show, the easiest way to do that would be to just drop a review in iTunes. Thank you so much if you've already done that. And if you haven't, please do. If you like the show, please leave a review in iTunes. It's like a ridiculous helpful thing to do. It sounds dumb, but if you just take that couple minutes, it's immense. It helps new people find the show and spreads the gear love everywhere. So, yeah, kind of a cool thing. So the last thought I'd like to leave you with is, if you have any gear-related, tone-related questions, just don't be afraid. Hit me up at info@tonemob.com. If I don't know the answer, I can pretty much guarantee you I can find somebody who does. So I will do my best to, help you achieve your tonal dreams. So don't be afraid to send an email to info@tonemob.com or hit me up on any of the normal social media channels. And again, I thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a killer week, and good luck and good tones. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.